good evening, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. My name is Scott Morgan, Roth, the Motor City Madmouth. Great crew lined up. I'm going to go right to left. Smoking Jeremy B. Welcome back to the big show.
Hey, great to be here. Glad to talk some football with you, gentlemen.
We're going to do exactly that. Travis Sherlock Holmes, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen.
My pleasure. And of course, Coach Bonamago. He's back. Giving the old grand salute. I guess he'll save his voice when he's not muted, so that way everybody doesn't forget what he sounds like. Just kidding with you, Coach. I like to bust your chops.
I can't take enough precautions in this household. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
This is called your salute to service tonight. Good stuff. All right. And Mel Farr Jr. is back as my co-host. Welcome back, Mr. Co-host.
What's going on, guys?
All right, y'all ready to have a good show? So let me just everybody know that Inside the Pigskin is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Just be active in the chat room, number one. Or two, send your topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. Also, if you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. Our Twitter information is at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. I should also point out that coming later this summer, the Motor City Madmouth show will be debuting on the Eagle Corp Media Studios in Boca Raton, which is owned by Dr. Edwin Hernandez. We'll keep you posted. The Eagle Corp, just so you know, is a technology-based company here in Boca Raton. So I'm looking forward to taking that situation as a director of broadcasting and building it from the ground up. And of course, once we get that rolling, then our shows are going to appear on both networks. So stay tuned for updates. Well, great show tonight. So, of course, I'm always going to say that because when you feel like you're confident in the crew to deliver the goods, I feel like we're very consistently able to do exactly that. All right. Deion Sanders, not afraid to call his shot. This appeared on the South Florida Tribune Inside the World on June 13th. All right, Jeremy, let's talk about prime time. I know he's in the hospital and he's recently had surgery because of blood clots, but he's certainly the new sheriff in town out there for sure. Give me your thoughts about the message that Sanders is going to send out in Colorado.
Well, it's basically, player, you're not going to be here, right? Right. What else is he supposed to say? He's got to turn around a team that won, 2 games last year?
Right.
I mean, it is what it is. If you were on the team and you didn't play well, you better have played stellar to stay, as he proved when he cut 61 of them.
All right, Travis.
I mean, yeah, he's doing what he did at Jackson State, right? Like, this is the same process. The only difference is we're just seeing it on a much larger scale because he's at a bigger school. So he's getting even more media attention, which is a wild statement to say because it's Deion and he's a media attention magnet. The man knows how to stay in front of a camera and he knows how to stay in front of a microphone. Like, it's like a baby in a pacifier. So Deion is doing what he did at Jackson State. He's doing the exact same game plan, hoping that it works the exact same way. So they started out solid at Jackson State and became great really quickly. And that is sort of the hope. And frankly, he is a well-known athlete, a well-known, iconic NFL cornerback who is able to strike while the iron is hot as far as NIL, as far as the transfer portal, as far as all these things existing. And he is using them in an insane but also kind of intelligent way. You can't really knock him for it. It's just, hey, man, I hope it works. And it seems like it might, just based on it being free agency without the money, honestly.
Hello, Will Vogel. Glad you're always on here. You always bring a lot of great things to the show. Okay, Coach.
Well, someone told me a long time ago, it ain't bragging if you've done it. And, I'm a big fan of Deion. I think he did a phenomenal job at Jackson State, not just to elevate that program, but I think, at least elevating the exposure for the HBCUs and the young men that choose to play there. I mean, shoot, he's doing everything within the rules. I mean, other people might not like it, but he's not breaking any rules. And so I applaud his aggressiveness. I mean, he's coaching the way he played. And, if you watch him and you really truly listen to what he says and his message to his players, he's being forthright. There's no secrets. I mean, and he's treating it like the business that it is. And now, with the NIL, with the transfer portal, it's college football, especially at that level, has always been a business. Let's not make any mistake about it. He's treating it more like the business that it is. And it goes both ways. Those players are free to transfer. I mean, they're negotiating their own deals. College players are getting agents to help them secure NIL funds. So again, I just go back to, he's not breaking any rules. He's working within the lines and just being very aggressive with it. I wish him luck. I think he will be successful.
All right, I'm going to have Jeremy read Will's comments, and we'll turn it over to Mel.
I think that Deion is going to bring in recruits to play for him and turn them around slowly. But I think in a few years he will be in charge of FSU, meaning Colorado is just a stepping stone.
Boy, you know what? We're going to comment on that and hang tight with it there. Okay, that's a loaded one. Mel, first, give me your thoughts of that.
Well, I think Deion is, looking at it just like an NFL coaching job. When you have a bad team, you don't fire the players. You get rid of the coach, and the coach comes in there, and they get rid of all the players and get the kind of players in there that they can feel that they can win with. Now, whether that's players that they're familiar with, or it's just different type of players in the organization because they know the type of players that were there, they weren't successful, and generally, what happens is you get rid of the head coach. He comes in and he cleans out everybody, and eventually, within a few years cycle, that whole team has changed. And Deion's doing it, like Coach Bono said, within the rules. This is, we talked about it a few weeks ago. I mean, this is something that they're allowed to do when they're coming as a first year head coach, where they can actually get rid of players. Now, if they decide to stay there at the university, they have to continue to pay their scholarship, but they're no longer on the football team. If they decide to go in the transfer portal, they're more than welcome to do that. And like Coach said, he was very upfront about it when he went in there and took the job, that this is what he's going to do. This is what we're looking for. This is what we're going to do. And he told them all to hit the transfer portal because, they were 2-11 or 2-9, whatever it was the previous year. And Deion's not, he's not a loser. He's a winner wherever he's been. Because of who he is, obviously he's must-see TV. And not only that, because of what he says, people always are intrigued by what he has to say because generally the things that he has to say are pretty powerful. But, Colorado is a tough job, and we understand that. We understand this is probably not his destination. This is probably something that is probably somewhat of a stepping stone until the job that he really covets becomes available. But right now, it's a good job for him. If he's able to get this program turned around and they're able to play, 500, 600, 700 football, I don't know if they're going to be able to compete for a natty. But, I believe he can turn that program around to where they're maybe playing for a Pac-12 championship. That's something that, Colorado has had some good football before. We know they won a national championship a number of years back. But, I'm looking forward to seeing what Deion's going to do. It's unfortunate that he's having these health struggles. That's, praying for him. And, hopefully he has a speedy recovery and he's out there and able to, to do the things that we know that he's capable of doing. And hopefully these health issues won't set him back.
Yeah, I want to go back to Will's comments. Well, I could see him eventually going to Florida State, but not anytime soon. But, it's interesting how you throw it out there because it's his alma mater. I think Florida State made a mistake by not giving him a job earlier. I understand that he took Bethune-Cookman and he did pretty good things with him. But, yeah, if you win in Colorado, you're doing well. Well, I don't think you're that far off base. And you know what? I'll back it up with George Eichhorn's comments. Then again, you will, Jeremy.
Will is getting way ahead of himself. Give Deion the time he needs to mold a winning team in Colorado. Yep.
I
Everybody thought the same thing in Jackson State when he went there, and he turned them around in 2.5 years, was it?
Right.
So to say he can't do it at the next level,
the athletic director asked him to give him 3 years, and
Right.
he lived up to that commitment. He said, "Give me 3 years, Deion. Don't do anything. Give me 3 years here." When they hired him, and he lived up to that commitment. Then he had an opportunity that a lot of people think came out of nowhere, and they paid him a lot of money to go to Colorado, and he felt obligated to take that job.
Okay,
I'll
Jaron?
say this.
That's one of
Oh,
my
go ahead,
guys
man.
there. Lion King, don't sweat the Detroit Lions secondary technique.
All right. Hey, I have a responsibility to put every comment up
Hey,
there.
Scott, can I just make one more comment on Deion?
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
I mean, I think, look, it's always players over plays, right? I mean, there's no mules racing in the Kentucky Derby. That's not an original one, but one I've
Right.
used a lot. And the thing about Deion is because of who he is and what he's done,
Right.
I mean, he's a larger than life. That man can recruit, okay? And man, that's the bottom line. It doesn't matter, what they decide to do offensively and defensively. If he can continue to get players to plug in, and play for him, because I just think there's a lot of kids that want to play for him. I mean, I really, he's got the potential to go a long way and make Colorado great really quick. He may have more suitors than just Florida State before it's all said and done.
All right, let's continue in the
Right.
chat room and then we'll move on to the next topic. Okay, Jeremy.
Lions 1960 says, agreed, George. How many years for D to turn around the program? Didn't they give him a 5-year deal, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure they
I
did.
think it was 5 years. So if he hasn't turned it around by year 3, it's probably going to be another one of those things where you see a coach that didn't live up to what they wanted and they turn over. That's what colleges do. They give every coach a minimum of 3 years.
All right, just so you know, Jeremy, tell Lions 1960 what the policy is when he's active in here to get on the show.
If you ever want to be a guest on the show with guys like Coach Bono and Mel Farr Jr., Scott Morganroth, and myself, all you have to do is go to the SouthFloridaTribune.com, South Florida Tribune channel on YouTube and subscribe and continue to be active in the chat.
Yep, there you go. So Lions 1960. Jeremy's handling all the newer additions back in his direction. Once you subscribe, let Jeremy know, and then he's going to be on here. And I'll create more shows if I have to do that to make sure I live up to my word. All right. Well,
Can I add one comment to that Deion conversation, if you don't mind?
By all means, go ahead.
Just to hop back in. Originally, we had the Jackson State job offer when Deion was actually applying at that time to non-HBCU schools. He was applying to D1 colleges like Colorado at that time. So a lot of people argued that he actually took that step down to take that Jackson State job simply because they gave him more flexibility in controlling the things outside of football, being able to bring in that Walmart money and get the facilities upgraded and all of these additional items that were going to support the overall program.
Right.
I would argue that he's doing the exact same thing with the Colorado job. Like they gave him that, they upgraded the facilities. They put in all of that money. And it's also Deion who's going to bring in money just because he's going to bring in the attention. So I think that if in reality, he might have had an offer similar to a Florida State, or maybe not to that level, because Florida State's a little bit down right now. But a big time school that's down, but maybe not necessarily Colorado. But maybe he took the Colorado job simply because he's wanting to be more like one of those Chip Kelly characters, where he's going to build a program in the middle of nowhere, where pretty much no one wants to go, where it's near impossible to recruit at. But he's Deion, so he can recruit. I don't know. He can recruit anybody to go anywhere. He can sell water to a water salesman. Like it's nonsense. But yeah, that's Deion. The rules don't really apply to this guy. So yeah, I honestly do believe he's going to turn this thing around in 2 to 3 years, just because right now we're going to go by his history, and he's doing the exact same program. So until we see it doesn't work, there's a reason Nick Saban doesn't like the transfer portal. So, at this current moment in time, if he's showing us the blueprint and making this thing work, well, the guy who has a blank checkbook, which is what NIL and the transfer portal really is, I kind of have to lean that way.
All right. Well, I had one more thing about with George Eichhorn. Move on next topic. He says 3 years or bust. Well, okay, we'll see. 3 years is what you can usually make a determination where a program is in 3 years. But I don't know. When you're talking about the words Deion Sanders, I'm not going to sit here and say bust yet. That's way too premature. We'll have a much better gauge of what that program is going to look like after year number one. Topic number two: the NFL and NFLPA commit additional $500,000 to fund studies of innovative pain management solutions, including CBD. And you know what? To me, that's pretty interesting. So, with that said, okay, Jeremy, what do you think? CBD is now into the picture, and the NFL is committing some more money to it. What are your thoughts?
Well, CBD, which has a lot to do, it's made from hemp or weed, to be exact. But the CBD itself is actually the medicinal properties of marijuana, which there is a way to remove what makes you high and still get the medicinal properties. It's
Right.
actually very good for pain management. It's very good for anxiety. It's good for depression. It's good for blood pressure. And it's also good for fighting cancer.
Okay, Travis, what's your take on this?
I mean, yeah, it's always good, and I'm always going to be a fan of the NFL and, frankly, any professional association of professional sports league, opening their mind to different ways to make these players feel like human beings. Like, I'm always going to be like, we knew, I don't know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that this was a beneficial thing for professional athletes. How do we know this? They told us. They've been like, very many of these athletes have been publicly telling us this for the vast majority of my lifetime. So I'm ecstatic about them at least being open to something that's seemed pretty obvious for a very long time. We know the NFL is generally a conservative league. They're going to be a little bit slower with these movements. So, hey, good job at least studying it. But my biggest hope is that we move past the studying phase after we get just enough evidence that says this is beneficial, so that we can actually get these guys, these gentlemen, feeling again like normal human beings, or something remotely close to that, after all these car accidents they're in every week.
Okay, Coach.
Travis, great job. I think I don't really have too much more that I can add to that. I think I agree with everything you just said. And let's face it, I mean, it's already there, right? We all know that it's already being utilized. I think it's good that they're at least studying it and can make it, get it approved.
Okay, Mel, you have final word on this.
CBD is the compound that they find in the leaf that doesn't have the THC, right? So we're not talking about guys going out there getting high. We're talking about, for medicinal purposes, being able to deal with pain and being able to heal and recuperate and regenerative medicine, and so these guys can get back out there and perform at a high level. So anything that you can do to try to help these guys. I mean, for years, they've been taking all kind of supplements with who knows what's in that stuff, and guys have been doing that for a long period of time and say they're getting certain kind of results for it. Well, whether it's been approved by the FDA or not, but I think it'd be nice for them to go ahead and do this in conjunction with the PA to see if there are some benefits to this, so that players can have something to deal with, help them to deal with pain management, and also regenerative medicine to help them get back out there and be able to perform at a high level without the traditional methods that we know cause problems. When you're popping 30 Advil a day, that's a problem. When you're taking those other pain medications that become addictive, that becomes a problem. So yeah, I mean, hopefully they'll find something here, and that will benefit the players, so that they can get out there and do what they love to do.
Yeah, more power to them if they can find CBD as a way to assist. All right, back to the chat room. Okay, we're going to go to Will, and then I want to keep riding it. Okay, Jeremy?
Hopefully players don't use it in the wrong way, and I agree what Jeremy said. Well, it's hard to use CBD wrong, because CBD is actually short for what is called cannabinoids, which was proven by the University of London back in 1987 to literally destroy cancer cells.
Okay. All right. Next.
Thanks for answering my question. I asked one on LNU mailbag earlier, and someone in the chat said I needed to do research. I didn't know I needed to do research in order to ask a question. Well, that's because some people don't think before they speak.
Right.
If you're asking a question, it's because you don't know the answer and you want someone to answer it. Therefore, the person answering it is to do the research, not the person asking the question.
Lions 1960, keep watching these shows. We do things a lot differently. All we ask you to do is sit there, enjoy what we're doing, and learn as much as you can and contribute any way you see fit. I run a very loose ship here, and I rely on my team. I don't mind interjecting opinions, but to me, I'm not the only person on the show. I have a great supporting cast. So thanks for being a part of it, and we're looking forward to having you on. All right, Will, let's go back to all right, you go ahead, Jeremy.
When I mean wrong way, I mean getting overly addicted. There is absolutely no addictive properties to CBD.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, THC and being addicted to the high is a totally different thing. But we're talking about CBD, which is the removal of the THC. It's a very expensive process, and those pills cost more. Therefore, I don't think that will be an issue.
Okay. All right. I have two topics left, and I'm going to turn over to my running back, Mel Farr. Just so happens these are running back related questions. According to CBS Sports, Garrett Podell, top 10 running backs for 2023 season. And these are what we're talking about in terms of paying. You have Christian McCaffrey, who leads at 16 million as number one. Then you have Derrick Henry of Tennessee, 2. Austin Eckler of the Chargers, 4 is Nick Chubb. Jonathan Taylor of the Colts is 5. Josh Jacobs of the Raiders is 6. Saquon Barkley is 7. Aaron Jones of the Packers is 8. Tony Pollard of the Cowboys is 9. And Dalvin Cook's a free agent. So, okay, I said a mouthful. Okay. So, Jeremy, why don't you assess this list? I want everybody to assess the list. I don't want to sit here and get into a 9-hour conversation about everyone. Just assess the list.
It's actually a pretty decent list, but the problem is some of those players are paid way over what they do now compared to what they did because they're paid for past performances. So you have to look at that as well. But the running back position is undervalued and underpaid to begin with.
And you know what? Let's go back to our buddy Lions 1960. Okay. All right, Jeremy.
I love this guy already. He got PO'd because I called him Suckfeld. How'd you know that Nate Sudfeld's name is Suckfeld with me too on my show?
That's funny. Lions 1960. I'll just say one thing to you, pal. You're on a roll. Keep up the good work. All right. One more for Will Vogel. All right. And these are all very solid running backs who have deserved the money that they got. Okay. Onwards to Travis.
Yeah. It's funny because you brought this one up because that was part of my parting shot. So I'm not going to ruin it now, but I would just, running backs and how they're paid is a part of one of my parting shots. But most of the running backs are really good players. Like there's not you didn't name any one player that's just like, I don't think this guy is a top 15, maybe even, top 20 running back. The problem is even with the top guys you did name, one of them got traded. Christian McCaffrey. You have Derrick Henry. He was a potential trade candidate just this offseason. I mean, that was already in the conversations. And it's just such a weird thing with this running back position where you can be an incredible guy and it doesn't matter. Like some teams will pay you, and the vast majority of the teams just be like, "Hey, man, no, I'll pay 3 running backs, 2 vet minimum and 1 rookie, and we'll just take this thing together and kind of keep it moving." But the list is great. Like it's a hodgepodge of incredible players. It's just a very weird thing where you have these incredible guys and they may not be paid in the way that they should be. Again, Saquon's still arguing about how much he should be paid. So again, great list. It's just weird how it works out for him.
All right. Well, Lion 1960, you have a friend in Will Vogel. Nice job, Lion. All right. With that said, we'll turn over to Coach.
I like the list. Probably not necessarily how I would rank them. And the only question I would say is, where is Ezekiel Elliott?
free agent not getting paid.
All right, fair enough. Anything else you want to add to it?
Nope.
Well,
Okay,
it was a weird one because that was the top 10 paid guys, right?
Yeah.
right.
So not the best guys necessarily, because that would have absolutely been a different list.
All I can tell you is this: I love lists. Anytime I get a chance to put one up there, I'm going to do it. So,
Yeah.
all right, now to the running back, Mel Farr Jr.
Well, I had to disagree with something Jeremy said. He said the guys were getting paid for past performance. I mean, maybe only, maybe Christian McCaffrey, maybe, but I mean, I think what he's capable of doing in that type of offense and the Shanahan offense. The Shanahans are the ones that kind of ruin this whole running back thing, thinking you can get a guy off the street and go out there and get 1,000 yards, which they had a couple running backs do, or late round draft picks, or even Terrell Davis, because he was drafted late, but I think that was because of an injury. But when you have a guy at that position, it does make a difference. When you have somebody like Christian McCaffrey who can do it all, it's going to make a big difference in that position and the production you get out of that position. Derrick Henry, there just aren't many guys walking down the street like Derrick Henry. He's a handful. And once he breaks the line of scrimmage and gets to the second and the third level, you have to make a business decision. It really comes down to that. You're making a business decision as whether or not you're going to stick your head in there and get involved in that. So when you have somebody that's that guy, it really helps, number one, your quarterback, particularly if you have a young quarterback. It's going to help your defense as well, going to keep them off the field because you don't have so many 3-and-outs. You're able to sustain long drives, which gives your defense rest. You're able to, incorporate the play action game, keep the defense off balance, wear the defense out come the second half. After a while, guys they don't want it anymore. I mean, they're getting tired of getting leaned on. You've been leaning on for 3 quarters, and now here you come again. You got these big old 330, 40, 50-pound guys. And as a defensive lineman, you're a speed guy, and these guys are just leaning on you. You're tired, man. You're done. The line of scrimmage is a battle of wills. It's my will against your will. Somebody's will is going to have to give at some point in time.
Right.
And generally, the guy who's getting leaned on the most is you're probably going to break his will at some point in the game, and the game becomes a lot easier. So, I'm passionate about the running back position. I think what happened is some running backs, in a quest to try to get paid, made some bad decisions. You go back to the running back in Pittsburgh who decided
Le'Veon
Bell decided not to play, and even the running back at San Diego, Los Angeles, the Chargers, when he decided not to accept the money that he was trying to get. I don't know, 15, 16 million. They're offering him fair money. They ended up releasing him. He goes to the Broncos, and he didn't get anywhere near the kind of money that he was trying to get. So sometimes these guys price themselves out of the market because they see guys like Ezekiel Elliott and what he did, and he got paid. Derrick Henry was a short-term deal. Christian McCaffrey, for whatever reason, Carolina felt like they needed to pay him. He hasn't been able to stay healthy, but they paid him. Because they felt that he was going to be, that guy for him, but they ended up trading him, and San Francisco was more than happy to take on that contract because they know the type of, with that offense, what he's capable of doing. So I think there's been some missteps along the way that got the running backs in this situation that they're in right now. But you look at that group of running backs, that's a good group of running backs, and they're all very, very, they're still relatively young for, maybe old running back years, but they're relatively young as far as life is concerned. I mean, they're all under 30 years old and still are very productive.
Okay, Jeremy, read the comment, please.
Running backs are underpaid regardless of how much they're paid because of the pounding they take. Just saying.
Well,
And then Will Vogel says, I agree, Lions 1960. And he goes, and then Lions 1960 also says, yes, exactly. Totally agree with Mel. And DC 8091, the NFL needs more Schlesingers, all Stotts, Vardelis, Rothmans, Campbells, Van Ignis.
Van Egan's, you're too young for Van Egan.
He's in the ballpark.
Scared to hit the D and win doing it.
Well, that's just it. Well, that's just it. There's an argument to be made here, and I think it's real interesting that because when Mel was talking, I immediately thought the same thing, and then DC 8091 kind of hinted at the same thing I was thinking. There's a boatload of running backs who can be just those guys who you can probably get for pennies or you can get for very small contracts. And if anything, that's what's causing this issue. Because for every Derrick Henry out there, you may have a guy who can play a role like a Jamal Williams, who can be that sledgehammer for your team if you have a scat bat like a Swift as your main guy or an Alvin Kamara as your main guy, and you just need that hammer to be your other guy for a $3 million, $4 million, $5 million a year contract. And that is giving the running back market a real issue. If anything, that's the piece that I'm saying. I think the biggest part of that list, my biggest takeaway from looking at this list of individuals is the fact that the vast majority of these guys are versatile. The guys who aren't versatile, the guys who are only those sledgehammers like Derrick Henry, that may be the reason that they are so limited, because now they have to go and get another guy to do the other thing that you can't do. Versatility is becoming the biggest thing that NFL teams are wanting, so that defenses can't kind of key on you.
Yeah, I'll mention one more comment. Corey was a dog, DC. Oh, I love watching Corey Schlesinger. All right, my last topic before I turn over to Mel. Melvin Gordon, running back, the worst position to play in the NFL right now. Several high-profile running backs still unsigned. And, of course, I'll mention the obvious list everybody knows. Talk about Ezekiel Elliott, Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook. Gordon, mind you, is only 30 years old. So that's a loaded one. All right, Jeremy, you get the lead on this one.
Well, I kind of alluded to this earlier when I talked about the best ones that play are not even on that list because they're sitting in free agency, whether it's because they're long in the tooth, whether it's because they just haven't been signed. The most versatile one on that list that hasn't been signed yet is Kareem Hunt.
Right.
Okay. In my opinion.
Well, no debating that. All right, Travis.
But then there's the obvious question of whether or not that's a decision for Kareem Hunt or is that a decision for the NFL? Because there's a line of there's a negotiation line where, hey, I'll play in the NFL, but I'm not playing for this. I'm not getting off the couch unless I'm making this amount of money. It's not worth my time to get off that couch and take these hits. I can be spending this time with my family. Like, that's an obvious thing, and I'm sure someone who's done it, like Mel will kind of hint at that later. But my point is, hey, if he knows that this is what the market is, as we've seen what the market kind of is hinting that it is right now for NFL running backs, maybe this isn't worth the time to get off the couch to unless training camp is done and there's an opening, someone gets injured, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it kind of it's an unknown whether or not some of this is falling on the running backs themselves versus some of this is actually falling on NFL front offices.
All right, now I was praying for somebody to bring this guy's name up. Raymond, we're going to have a date here. Peterson, please subscribe to the channel. You're coming on one of these shows. It'll either be this one or Fire Up Michigan when we get it going later. But I need to read this one, Jeremy. You can take this one up. Imagine what my favorite Billy Sims would have done if he stayed healthy and played for 12, 13 years. Well, you know what, Raymond? You fall into the GMTA stands for Great Minds Think Alike. You really do. The only thing that wrecked Billy Sims was a Metrodome in Minneapolis. Raymond, I am so glad you brought that up. You absolutely hit a bullseye in this one. Good stuff, Raymond. All right. Thank you very much. Sup, and we're going to be in conversation. Go through Jeremy. Anybody else want to take a shot at or mention anything about Billy Sims? Because I
thought Billy got hurt in Seattle. And then,
it was actually Minneapolis. And I'll tell you why I know that. Because years ago when I covered a Lions game there, I walked in there with hiking boots, and my hiking boots got caught into that stupid turf, and I ended up having to see a knee specialist and get my knee trained because that stupid place. So that's why I know how he got his knee wrecked up. I like to think that I don't have to rely on bad medical history to define what happened to me, but I'll get into that another time. But now, Raymond, good stuff.
Billy just had an ACL.
All I got to say to Raymond is look who's hanging as a
guys now. They come back from ACLs with no problem now. All Billy did was tore his ACL. They didn't have the technology back then.
Well, all right, that's how I agree.
Robert Smith, I think, was the first guy to come back. No, was it Robert Smith? It was a Minnesota running back. It might have been Robert Smith. Back then they called it knee reconstruction. He had reconstruction surgery on your knee. I think he was the first one to come back and play after having reconstructive surgery. I think it was Robert.
Didn't he play another 2 years if I remember right?
he played for a while. Then obviously they got better and better. Now you get a ACL. It's no big deal. But when Billy, all he had was an ACL, he walked out the field and really didn't know what was going on. And that was the last time he was on the field. Man, that was it.
Mm.
Well, I agree. I just remember the venue, Mel, because obviously it's called association, right, Coach? How you always have a tendency to associate certain things. So,
Yeah.
and my knee I had a little bit of a problem there, and Billy Sims had a bigger problem. But you know what? I don't think anybody's feeling sorry for him because he's a heck of a businessman. All he did was get into the barbecue business, so he's barbecuing the restaurant industry. All right. With that said, we talked about Melvin Gordon. Anybody have any thoughts about Melvin Gordon who I haven't mentioned? Coach, any thoughts about Melvin Gordon and the rest of them?
I think there were some great points. I kind of agree with his statement, kind of going back to what we talked about last week and what I was alluding to in terms of just the shelf life of the running backs. I mean, those guys need to get as much as they can, as early as they can, because, unfortunately, they don't last a long time.
Right.
And, right, wrong, or indifferent, I think a lot of front offices, like to Travis's point, they might not have the one guy that can do everything, but they can get 2 guys or 3 guys that are cheaper to do all of those different jobs.
All right, Mel, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm sure you have a couple topics. Floor is yours.
Well, let's go back to that list that you just mentioned.
Sure.
And, you got Ezekiel Elliott, Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, and Dalvin Cook. Forget about money. Forget about money.
Okay.
Is Ezekiel Elliott more likely to be on an NFL roster in 2023 or an XFL or USFL roster in 2024? Jeremy.
I think the latter.
Yeah, just based on tape. We're talking about just based on what he put on tape. Travis.
Ooh, that's rough, man. Because the answer, and I think we all know it and don't want to say it. But no, out of those guys, I don't know how he gets on the roster unless he's making pennies. And like I said earlier, I don't know if they're going to pay him enough to get him off the couch.
And that's a great point that you make, because football is hard. And, like I told my nephew when he decided he didn't want to play in college, I said, man, hey, look here, I don't blame you, because it's tough. And if you don't really love the game, don't play, because all the things that you have to do to be able to go out there on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Friday night, whenever you play, the things that you have to put your body through are just insane. And if you don't love the game, it's very difficult to do that. And so that's why I say take the money out of it, take all that other stuff out of it based on what that person put on tape. What do you think, Coach Bono?
I think
we'll see Ezekiel Elliott back in the NFL again?
I do. The one thing all of these guys have to their advantage is if they stay in shape, they can hold out for a while until there's a need, because even after the regular season starts, somewhere is going to get hurt. And then where do you go? Right. You're not going to get a veteran player off somebody's practice squad. And all of a sudden now, Ezekiel's out there, or, if Dalvin Cook is out there, they'll get a fair deal. But again, Travis, you're making some great points tonight. It's like, how much is it going to cost to get me off the couch? And for some of these guys, maybe they've made enough money, and that's not the motivating factor. I mean, it's not. They're definitely not going to, shortchange themselves. I would say that.
Yeah, I mean, Leonard Fournette, he's won a Super Bowl. Kareem Hunt, I think he wasn't with Kansas City when they won, right? He was gone by then, was he? Or was he there?
Actually, no, he was suspended that year in Cleveland the next year.
Yep.
Okay.
Toledo Rocket.
Dalvin Cook. So, I mean, Dalvin Cook's a good back. I mean, he's going to have an opportunity to play. Now, what kind of money is he going to get? I don't know. Leonard Fournette, he still has some, Leonard Fournette still has some, to me, he still has some tread on the tire. And Kareem Hunt definitely has tread on his tire, because he runs with very, very bad intentions. The only one that I see that I really don't see much of a future for him is Ezekiel Elliott. I don't see that he's motivated, just based off of what I saw on tape, I don't think that he's been motivated to play. Obviously, since he got that contract, I don't think he's been really motivated to play, because his production has gone down. I was reading. They had a little article on NFL.com that I found interesting, and it asked people, "What city do you feel the fan base most deserves a Super Bowl? Which fan base do you feel most deserves a Super Bowl?" Jeremy?
You really had to go to me first. You know what I'm going to say. Detroit, baby.
I'm with you there. I'm with you there. We haven't sniffed one.
All right. Make the sales pitch. Come on, Jeremy. I got to hear come on, give me the sales pitch.
What do you got to say? We haven't won a world championship since what, 7 years prior to it being called the Super Bowl? 1957? And Bobby Lane put a
by the
curse on us.
By the way, on my birthday in 1957, even though
Yeah.
Continue.
So that being said, it's been 60 plus years of ineptitude we have seen from the Lions front office and coaching staffs, minus who's on our panel right here. And because we did have a good special teams while John Bonamego was here. You can look it up. It's true. We had a good special teams unit. We had everywhere else.
They're doing well right now. Dave Phipp up there is doing a great job.
I'm talking about up till this current regime. And that is why I think we are closer than a lot of people think. It could happen this year. Will it happen this year? It remains to be seen because proof is in the pudding. And what I mean is we've made it to the playoff 3 other times in this past 20 years. And what did we do? Flopped. Whether you want to say it was bad calls, whether you want to say it was this, that, or other, you look at the play calling. The play calling was abysmal, which left our defense on the field way too long. They got gassed and then got gashed at the end of those playoff games.
Look, I mean, there's 4 teams that have never played in the Super Bowl, and that's Cleveland, Jacksonville, Detroit, and Houston Texans. Now, those are all expansion teams. You know, Cleveland, they came back as the Cleveland Browns, but that's an expansion team because their team left and went to Baltimore, and they started all over again. And the other teams we know are expansion teams. But Detroit is the only original team from the original NFL that has not gone to a Super Bowl. So, yeah, I'm with you there, Jeremy.
Vogel, the Bills have been to the Super Bowl 4 times in a row and lost all of them with Jim Kelly. Don't say they haven't been there.
And I knew you were going to make the argument that it was Detroit. And it stinks that I have to disagree. Only because I'm a Jaguar fan. And I know we're an expansion team. But no. I gave you the floor. Let me get it off. So the Lions have been just historically bad. Absolutely. Because you guys have done, you've wasted the career of an NFL great wide receiver and NFL great running back, Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson. That is just insane. Like just to have that on your resume as a team is pretty insane. So I got to give you credit on that. However, the Jaguars have been worse since I've been alive. Like we have literally been worse. If you go year by year on how bad we have been consistently since Shad Khan bought the team, we were just historically bad. One of the worst teams competing with the Cleveland Browns for 12 years straight. So because of that, I got to go with Jacksonville. Basically, in my lifetime, the Jaguars have been a worse team than the Detroit Lions, and because of the Jaguars got to get a Super Bowl.
All right, rapid fire in the chat room, Jeremy. All right.
Okay. DC8091 says, if you don't love the game, don't play. Perfectly said, Sir Mel.
Okay, next.
Will Vogel's Hunt will be a backup and Cook will get a start, and Elliott will be a 3rd down back if he plays.
Okay, next.
EE doesn't seem to have the drive we're seeing out of our Lions team now.
Okay, well, all right.
I think it's between the Bills and Lions. Both deserve it.
All right, and last, we have a couple more here, and then we'll get back on track.
Deserves a Super Bowl? Easy answer. The new effing Lions.
All right. Okay. And last but not least,
8091 gives the best answer yet. Jags never went winless.
All right, Mel, continue. We'll pick it up, but we got to make sure we get these comments out there. All right, go ahead.
Marlo, what fan base do you think most deserves
I
Super
would
Bowl.
love to see. I would love, and I coach for both of these franchises. I would love to see a Jacksonville, Detroit Super Bowl. But if I was going to pick the team that I love to see win it, I'm going to say the Lions. And I'll give you one reason why. Mrs. Ford. I want to see her have an opportunity to hoist up that Lombardi trophy before it's too late. She is a wonderful, wonderful woman. I have a lot of fond memories, and I just think very highly of the Ford family. You know, regardless of how the football side has been run and that sort of thing. But I've had a chance to be with a lot of organizations, and there is no other organization that is run in more of a first-class manner than the Detroit Lions, and it starts in the top, and that's because of the Ford family.
I got one more question. I'm just going to ask
I'm
Travis
also
this
a fan
question. I was reading.
of the Cons as well, Travis. So
You don't understand how much I don't want that matchup. The Lions, the way that they play defense is not conducive to the way the Jaguars play offense. You guys are a real problem for us, and I'm not even going to BS it.
We appreciate that, Travis. But I mean, it'll be nice for you to get to the dance. So play against anybody, it wouldn't matter who they get to, who they play against. Rather, I got one question I'm going to ask you, Travis. And I was reading something on Fred Taylor, and he said that he feels he's a Hall of Famer. What do you think? Since you're a Jacksonville Jaguar fan.
Yeah, I don't
think
it's a
Hall of Famer.
I don't think it's a question.
Very good.
I don't think it's a question. I think he's past that Hall of Very Good level. He is that guy who's absolutely not going to make the Hall of Fame that first vote or that first few votes, but he is going to absolutely squeak in time.
One Pro Bowl and no All Pros. Never led the league in rushing. Doesn't have an MVP title. Doesn't have a Super Bowl title.
A lot of that really came down to his injuries, though, and that's it's a sucky situation, but it's not so crazy. It's not so significantly different than even Tony Baselli. The only biggest difference was Tony Baselli did get his All-Pro votes, and that was the biggest difference. But if you're asking the guys who played the game at the time, most running backs would agree that Fred Taylor did belong in that conversation. That was always that conversation of whether or not he's over that line. He's one of those borderline guys that it's going to be. It's going to take a light year as far as the votes are concerned. You're going to have to make sure you just don't have very many running backs getting in, and he may get the votes in that way. But yeah,
it's not even about running backs because they don't go in.
I mean, sorry, right.
Number of players that go in, who every year, Tom Brady's coming up here pretty soon. They're going to have Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers is going to be retiring pretty soon. There's a lot of guys that keep retiring. Aaron Donald's going to retire at some point in time. There's guys that are shoo-in first ballot Hall of Famers. Coach Bono, did you get an opportunity to coach Fred when you were down there?
I did. I was when we were talking about the running back position. I mean, I remember coming in, to the Jaguars as my first NFL job, and after coaching college football and really coaching college football at West Point and seeing Fred Taylor in real life in the live flesh, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is a running back. I mean, he was a monster, and I love Fred. Man, if I had a vote, I would vote for him.
Yeah, a lot of writers feel one way, but you've asked the players that played against him, they feel like, and they're Hall of Famers. They feel like he definitely, deserves the opportunity to have the discussion to be put in the Hall of Fame and also, be inducted into the Hall of Fame. All right, that's it for me, Scott. Back to you.
All right, Jeremy, you go ahead and read the next two comments, and I have one somber note that we have to talk about that occurred today, an NFL problem. So first of all, go ahead, Jeremy, with these two comments.
Lions 1960. Yeah, Sheila deserves it. It'd be a great FU from her after being told she didn't have a place in the NFL.
I was speaking more to her mother.
I knew you were. You rarely make the Hall of Fame without multiple All-Pro and Pro Bowl selections.
True.
And that was always his issue.
They had a real nice thing one time with the ladies at the NFL with her and what is it, McCaskey, the Chicago Bears.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Hunt, who just passed away not too long ago. They had a real nice thing with Mrs. Ford and all them, where all the ladies were talking and having a discussion and conversation of what it's like to be a female owner in the NFL. It was really nice. If you can find it, I think it's worth watching.
Okay, unfortunately, on a somber note today, I learned about it earlier this afternoon. Rest in peace, Ryan Mallett. He died of a drowning accident out in Destin, Florida, at the age of 35. So, our hearts and prayers are with the Mallett family. I believe he played at the University of Michigan and Arkansas, and then he played with the Patriots. So, it's just one of those things that I remember when he played at Arkansas with Darren McFadden. Good point, Will. I'm glad you're able to remember that. Ryan Peace, dead at the age of 35, gone way too early. Anybody want to talk about briefly before we call it a night?
Ryan Mallett, what can you say? He went to the Patriots, I believe it was, where he was a backup quarterback. He came in after Tom Brady got hurt that year and earned himself a contract with another team because he did well. I think he went 3-2 in that 5-game run.
Right.
He was completing over 65% of his passes. He threw in those 5 games. He threw for over 1,000 yards and had more touchdowns than interceptions. As a backup, you can't ask for better than that in that situation. And, my heart goes out to their family, especially his mother and father, because no parent should ever bury a child.
Well said, Jeremy. All right, Travis, any thoughts?
Yeah, man, that sucks, man. That's rough, and that's a rough way to go. Even and this was his first year coaching. Like I think he was a high school football coach. Like just that impact across the league, that impact across that team. Those kids. Like everything, man. It just sucks for all parties involved. Absolutely praying for that family and praying for that community, man. It stinks.
Well, Coach, this is unfortunate, isn't it?
It certainly is. I mean, you hate to see anybody pass, especially that young. And, prayers for his family and everyone who knows him intimately.
Okay, Mel, you have final word on this.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like every day we're hearing about some young person that's passing away that played the game because of one reason or another. Obviously your heart goes out to the family. We all have kids, so even though we can imagine, but we can't possibly know what that family is experiencing right now. Last week we were talking about Ray Lewis's son, and it's something, one of those things that you don't want to think about. But obviously my prayers and thoughts are with the family, and hope that God gives them peace and understanding during this extremely difficult time.
Okay, I'll put one more Lions comment up. Oh my
gosh, Ryan had a cannon for us. Loved watching him.
Yeah.
He must be talking about at U of M, because he did. He came in a couple games that year that he was here. Who was it he was backing up that got hurt that year? I want to say it was Shoelace. Denard Robinson.
Shoelaces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, nevertheless, rest in peace, Ryan Mallett. All right, I'm going to go over some company business, and we'll let everybody else mention theirs afterwards, since mine's a little bit longer than most. I just want to let everybody know that Inside the Pigskin is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of this show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Look how active the chat room is. I can see a few of them coming out of there. Send the topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter at Tribune South. Candy Ambling's behind the scenes. And I'll mention it in case you just joined us now. Coming later this summer, the Motor City Mad Mouse Show will be debuting on the Egla Corporation Media Studios in Boca Raton, Florida. It's owned by Dr. Edwin Hernandez. We'll keep you posted. The Egla Corporation is a technology-based company. All right, we'll put one more of George Eichhorn's comments. Coming up immediately after Inside the Pigskin, we'll have 108 Stitches baseball talk. All right, Jeremy, read these, please.
After his NFL career, Mallett became an assistant coach at Mountain Home High School in Arkansas and eventually a head coach in Whitehall, Arkansas. He was hired in February of 2022.
Thanks, George.
So he had 1 year in as head coach.
Thanks for the information, George. Appreciate it. All right, now, Jeremy, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Well, you can always find me on this channel, which is the South Florida Tribune channel. Anytime Scott needs me, I hop in, whether it's Fire Up, Michigan, Inside the Pigskin, 108 Stitches, The Professor and Pupil. You name it, I'm there for them. And the Sports Exchange, let's not forget that one. Then you can also find my writings on the SouthFloridaTribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading, where you'll see me under a list of authors such as Scott Morganroth and George Eichhorn that's been in the chat tonight, where you can see where I write about the NFL and the Detroit Lions. Then you can find me also on my channel, which is Kneecap Biting with the Detroit Lions, where I do my NFL show talking about the different divisions and the hot news throughout the week. That's on Wednesday nights at 8. Then on Friday nights at 9:30, I have my Lions Fan Cave chat, where I'm just going to come up with different topics every week, because the reason why I do one show a week, it's easier to pick which topics you want to talk about.
All right. Also, Will Vogel, thanks for contributing as always. Much love back at you. George, thank you very much. Great job as well. All right, we'll turn it over to Travis.
Hey, and you can find me throughout the season, covering the Jaguars for A7BN Sports with Student of the Game Media. You can find my writings on BigCatCountry.com, where I'm the news contributor for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And also you can find me here every week in season, every 2 weeks in the off season, inside the Pigskin. I always appreciate you guys having me, and I'm loving the growth.
Oh, you're doing a great job, Travis. What can I say? Found you up in Jacksonville, and I really committed grand larceny stealing you. I committed grand larceny with all four of you guys, so whatever. All right, Coach, you tell them how they get a hold of you.
You can't. You can only find me on this channel and this show. Otherwise, you got to get a boat and hope you can find me out on the lakes, on the water somewhere.
All right, before we turn it, after the fish you caught, that was pretty good. All right, Jeremy, I'll give you a parting shot before we turn it over to Mel.
I'm speaking as a parent who had to do exactly what Mr. Mallett's parents are doing. It's the worst pain and the emptiest feeling in the world. And anytime you hear about something like this, it brings that pain back.
Okay.
So please, if you can, take your time. Reach out to them if you know any of them. Offer your prayers, offer your condolences, and offer your hugs and love, because they need it right now.
Well said. Okay, glad you got that one in, Jeremy. All right, last but not least, the co-host, Mel Farr.
Find me on all the social media at Mel Farr Jr., Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and also follow what we have going on here in Atlanta and also in Detroit at melfarr.org.
All right, well, that concludes this edition of Inside the Pigskin. Following Inside the Pigskin, we have the Sports Exchange coming up. So on behalf of Smoking Jeremy B., Travis Holmes, Coach Bono, and Mel Farr Jr., thank you very much for joining us on this edition. I doubt that we're going to have an edition on July 4th, but we will be back in 2 weeks. So I just want to make sure that on behalf of this crew, we'll come back the following week. So everybody enjoy your July 4th holiday. I will put this particular show up on next Tuesday night so you can listen to it again, so we have continuity there. So guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Enjoy your July 4th holiday, and this will be actually on social media next Tuesday, July 4th. So enjoy your July 4th, everybody, and I want to thank everybody for joining us. And let's see if there is yet another comment. Great show, Candy Ebling. Glad you were able to put it in there. So on behalf of this crew here, enjoy your July 4th. There's a tongue twister for you. And we will catch you in a couple of weeks. Take care, everybody, and have yourselves an awesome night. Good night now.